Throughout my story, I'll be going into detail about the three main elements that were important for me during my journey in becoming a therapy dog. When it comes to training, there are two main ways that my owner would communicate with me, through both verbal commands and gestural cues. Next, I will show you some short clips of me demonstrating a response to both types.
Stay. Okay. Go get a toy.
A study done by Daniela Scandura et al. That tested the responsiveness of 29 water rescue dogs concluded that females responded better to gestural rather than verbal commands, while males showed no preference. This was proven through a series of experiments using both types of commands separately and together. Overall, studies have shown that when dogs are equally accustomed to responding to visual and verbal commands, gestural cues are dominant. This knowledge assumes that body language is the most important communication channel for dogs.
This is Ranger. He's a year and 4 months and he is a Labrador Retriever.
My dog's name is Bijou. She's 8 years old and she's a Labradoodle.
My dog's name is Molly. She's a Shih Tzu and she is 11 going on 12 on April 4th.
I have two dogs, Tonka, who is a 15-year-old Australian Shepherd, and Lila, who is a 12-year-old Australian Shepherd.
I got Ranger when he was 4 months old and we began training right away, like sit, wait, down. And it took him a few months, but he got the hang of it and he's been listening really well ever since.
She was about half a year old when we started training and it took a couple months to get her fully trained.
I would say about 8 weeks I started training her with the nose and what was bad and what was good until she got it down pat.
I got Tonka just after he was 3 years old and Lila just after she was about 17 months or so. I'm a trainer. I started training with them right away. Basically, animals learn all the time. And I always think there's something to learn, so I don't think fully trained is ever in my vocabulary.
Well, it's hard to say because they do understand gestures also. It would probably be more effective in ways if you taught them that way at the beginning. When I trained my dog Molly, I used both. Like when I would tell her to stay, I would do this gesture to stay.
Both of my dogs are herding dogs. Certainly they respond well to hand cues. My younger dog, Lila, does have a sight impairment, so in some situations verbal would be better for her, but in general I find gestural clearer for dogs.
When it comes to training, there are two main types of training methods. The first is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is a way of rewarding the dog to encourage proper behavior. Examples include things like giving the dog's treat after doing something good, praising the dog by saying "good girl," giving them extra playtime by doing things like taking them to the park and giving them new toys, or allowing them to rest after a long day of training. Researchers Alexander Friend et al. Conducted a survey on 177 experienced dog trainers and discovered that the most effective training method is positive reinforcement, and the dog should begin obedience training by the age of 12 weeks. They also found that dogs should be trained for over 4 hours a week in order to be most successful. The second most common training method is the compulsive method. compulsive method involves negative actions towards the dog as a result of incorrect behavior. Some examples of this include putting a muzzle on the dog to stop barking or as a way to restrain the dog, using shock collars to alarm the dog when they do something they're not supposed to do, instead of saying no or bad girl. Another example is locking the dog in a cage when they are misbehaving or not performing the correct commands. And finally, neglecting the dog by disregarding playtime and walks as a result of incorrect actions. Two researchers, Renee and Cohen, conducted a study where an individual will go to the home of the subjects and tell the owners to do certain things, such as ignoring the dog to see what response they would get from the dog. Based on their study, they found that dogs who were shown any form of punishment, such as ignoring, neglect, or physical abuse of any sort, were more likely to show signs of behavioral issues and aggression.
I use positive reinforcement, and he does get treats as a response, as a reward for what he does and listen to. And as well, I use verbal and gestural commands, and he responds to both really well.
When we were training her, we kept everything consistent and gave her praise and treats when she did things right. And I guess treats worked the best because she got excited.
I would praise her, pet her, and give her a treat when she did something good. And when she did something bad, I would put her in her crate for 10 minutes to let her know that time out, you did something bad.
From a method perspective, I'm primarily focused on positive reinforcement, so providing something to the dog that they desire in the situation.
Studies have shown that anthropomorphism creates an emotional bond between dogs and their owners. By implementing spoiling activities and being a lenient trainer, allowing the dog to do things like sleeping on furniture and letting them jump on guests throughout a dog's training hasn't shown a positive or a negative effect on the dog's learning. However, it does allow the dog to better understand and connect with their trainer. They are happy and they feel loved. Therefore, when the dog can connect with their owner, they may be more likely to obey commands.
There are many restrictions when it comes to having guide dogs. Basically, there's a lot of rules that need to be followed. One of the things is no treats are allowed, and if we do need treats, we use their own dog food as treats. There are many things like when they're out and about and they have their jacket on, no one else is allowed to talk to them or associate with them. As well, I also have to pretty much take him everywhere I go. So when we go to stores, restaurants, or anywhere else, he comes with me and he's in jacket and he behaves and listens and does really well.
Yes, there were nights when she would cry a lot when she was missing her mom, and I'd bring her in the bed and cuddle her and comfort her. She also has her own chair. She decided that was the chair she wanted to lie in all the time. So it's a habit more than anything that she needs to always be in that chair.
Yeah, we let her sleep in the bed a lot and we gave her a lot of extra treats, so she got pretty spoiled.
Overall, it was very successful. She's quite an obedient dog. She's a joy to have. She's fun to play with. She loves attention.
As dogs bond with their owners over time, they begin to connect with their human on an emotional level and can be very comforting in difficult or stressful times. Dogs often act based on the behavior or emotions that are being portrayed by their owners. If the owner is excited, then the dog wants to play and have fun, but if the owner is sad, the dog will provide comfort by doing things like cuddling. When a dog cuddles with their owner, it allows for the human to feel more calm and an emotional bond is created. This is a good example of why dogs are often used for therapy help. When a dog acts based upon how the human is behaving emotionally, this is called an emotionally elicited response. One of the reasons why therapy dogs are so helpful for humans who may be dealing with personal struggles, stress, or sadness is that a human can always rely on a dog to be there for emotional support without fear of judgment or disapproval. Although a dog cannot communicate verbally with a human, they are great at showing emotion through their actions and being a supportive companion who can act as a best friend or a close family member. In the same way that a dog can be supportive to humans can show affection to their dog by doing things like playing with them or giving them treats, which from a dog's eyes is a sign of love and happiness. An article by O'Hara and Reeve explained that dogs tend to mimic the emotions and behavior of their owners. Therefore, when a human yawns, oftentimes the dog will mimic the action, even if they aren't tired themselves.
Although there's a lot of training involved and he has to follow a lot of rules, we do enjoy cuddling at the end of the day or throughout the day, and as well he does like playing around with his toys like a Kong and anything that's similar to that.
So animals connecting on an emotional level is really a function, in my estimation, of the relationship you build over time, the relationship you build through living with the dog and training with the dog. It's not something that you directly train.